Welcome to Inside the Pantry, or shall I say Inside Parliament today. So we're joined by a very special guest. Today we're joined by Labour MP Sharon Hodgson, who's been an MP for almost 20 years now and is chair of the APPG for school meals, which you founded in 2010.
That's right, yeah.
Absolutely, so what a journey. So welcome Sharon, everyone. Woo, in the background. We're in a smaller office today, so there's a few less people in the background, okay. Sharon, so can we start? Bit of a question that we ask all of our guests about sort of food, and we feel you can find out quite a bit by someone. Tell me 3 things that you have in your pantry at home that are staples, or in your cupboard or your fridge that are your absolute staples.
Oh, just
Curve
3.
question. Oh, 3, yeah. Or 33.
Wow, there's so many. Well, there would always be cheese and onions. You've got to have onions.
Yep.
You can make anything of. So things that you just can never
All
run
the
out
staples.
of. Garlic.
Yes, nice.
Yeah, so butter, garlic, cheese, and then a whole host of sauces.
Yeah.
And then, gosh, I have a very well-stocked spice cupboard with herbs and spices. Buy them in bulk. I can't imagine why anybody buys those little jars.
I'm with you.
In the supermarket. I once made a mistake of ordering some parsley and mixed herbs, and it was like, what, a tenner or whatever.
Yeah,
and when it came, I didn't know what a kilogram of parsley looked like. Well, it was a pillowcase full. I had enough parsley because it's so light, isn't it? Yeah. So anyway, I've got better at ordering.
So that's been 20 years. That's probably been in the cupboard for 20, still getting through it now.
I know. I keep thinking this parsley probably got no flavour left in it anymore.
I've done a cheap thing with cream the other day. We had some cream left over in my house. And rather than adding a bit of a milk to an omelette, I actually added some cream. To some scrambled eggs and omelette. I was like, oh, that's an extra treat there. And it turned out lovely. I'm not saying to do that, but I'm just saying if you've got a little bit left over.
Yeah.
Sharon, I wanted to ask you about growing up to start with. So obviously, we're in London today, we're in Parliament building, but it doesn't sound like you're a local from here. So whereabouts are you from?
So grew up in Gateshead, still represent part of Gateshead now. So so lived all over different parts of Gateshead, but did spend some time living in Mitcham and Morden in South London, and that was through my work with the Labour Party. But then when I stood to be elected for my hometown, moved the family back to Gateshead, and so me and my husband are still in Gateshead. But my kids, they were little when I first went to work for the Labour Party. I think they were 3 and 5, but they were 9 and 11 when I was elected, and they are now 30 and 31, she's 29, she's turning 30 in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, I've heard you speak before about, a lady in politics, sort of in a time probably when you joined where that wasn't so much, so much of a big thing.
Yeah. So when I was selected, it was more of a big deal than it would be now. It's like 22 years ago. I've been an MP 20 years gone May. So I was selected sort of like around 2003, I think it was. And at that point, in the whole of Tyne and Wear, which was at that point 13 MPs, there was only one woman, and it was the one who was stepping down, and it was for my hometown, for Gateshead. And so that was what prompted me to stand, because although I was political, and eventually, I went from being the volunteer to a member to a volunteer activist, then working for the party, but still, people like me didn't become MPs. I was behind the scenes. But it wasn't until Joyce Quinn, who was the MP for Gateshead, where I was from, I'd heard from a friend she was stepping down, that in the sort of split second.
And that moment changed your whole life.
Yeah,
like the whole trajectory of your life. Just you thinking, there needs to be someone who knows your community.
And so, had to then convince my husband, who a few years earlier, I just convinced him that we were moving to London because that was where our future, lay. And, I was going to get this really good job, which I did. I was, had a good job with the Labour Party and then with Unison. And then I was sort of saying, right, I want to upend all of that and go for a seat back home, and then we'll move back home. And he was, at first he was going, you've got to be kidding. And then, but it obviously, the thought rested with him, and he thought, she's going to do it. I know she's going to do it.
Sometimes just say yes, it's going to happen anyway. Yeah. Not worth the argument.
And thankfully, he supported me. But I kept going, they'll not pick me. I've got to go for it because I've got to go for it.
Yep.
I'll never rest. You only regret what you don't do. And I thought, I'll always think, oh, I could have been an MP if I'd went for it. And so I thought, I'm going to go for it, get it out my system. And then I can always say, well, at least I tried. But yeah, I won the selection by 5 votes.
5 votes, that is
5 votes on the selection.
Yeah.
But the selection, I always said the election wasn't too bad back then because Labour was still very, very popular. But it was the selection that was the hot, because that's the members. And there was only like 320 members who choose who's going to be the candidate on that ballot paper for that party. It's the same for all the other parties. And it's worked because in the Northeast now, we've got far more across the whole of the Northeast. Then the whole of the Northeast, I think I was one of 6 when I was elected. And then now in Tyne and Wear, we've got, I think it's 7 women and 5 men in Tyne and Wear, because now there is, it went from being 12 seats to 13 seats to 12, and I'm sure it's 7-5. So, yeah,
you were part of that.
Yeah,
you lit that fuse. Yeah. So congratulations.
It was a big moment as well, because I was sort of, a local working class woman, not sort of some high flying London well known entity,
or even been from. Parents who have done it, passed it on to their children. It's always been their journey.
Yeah. There were sort of political aristocracy where I was the first one to join a political party in my family. There's no political activism in my family at all.
I was going to ask, so your parents didn't have, I'm not saying not an interest in politics, but not in the way that you do.
No.
So growing up, this wasn't sort of part of...
So not active frontline politics, shouting at the telly and sort of knowing, but everyone does that. Well, I think
everyone's parents done that.
Yeah.
So what did your parents do then? Your mum was obviously a mum, but did she have a career or a job?
Well, after she brought us up, because my mum and dad got divorced when I was little, and I've had no relationship with my dad from being 7 when he left. My mum with 3 kids under 7.
Wow.
So brought up one parent family in Thatcher's Britain in the Northeast in the 80s. It's hard any time to be poor, but I always say it was particularly hard time then, especially in the Northeast. The North-South divide and the unfairness of that was one of the things that really drove me, and still does in politics, because it still matters where you live in the country, and it shouldn't. But then you just felt there was this huge communities that were blighted, and some are still recovering even all these decades later. So growing up under that, everyone I knew was out of work. Everyone who left school was looking for jobs, and it was, if you got a job, it was almost a party was thrown.
Big celebration, yeah.
It was, and then you would turn on the telly and you'd see all the yuppies and everything, and the big mobile phones, and there was just, and I would think, well, why can't, I knew nobody who was living a life like that.
Probably without you knowing that you're going to become political, those bits probably bothered you, that you built up over the years.
The injustice, feeling that injustice. Then you've got these 2 little, having my background, I had these 2 little precious, children were brought into the world, and everything was fine and stable. And I would look at my husband, I'd look at the house, and I'd think, me mum had this until my dad walked out and left her with 3 little kids, thrown onto the mercy of the state. And if you're thrown onto the mercy of the state, you need the state to be merciful.
Yep.
And in the 80s, the state wasn't merciful. And so I would look and I'd think, anything could happen to him. He could get run down by a car. He could he might meet somebody else and leave me. And I would, at the time, it was like the mid-90s. The kids were born 94, 95. And I would think, whoa, we'd lost the election in 92. I say we, I wasn't a member. So it was a bit like when you support your football team.
Yeah. We lost at the weekend.
We lost at the weekend. So we lost the election in 92, and I took the day off work from Northern Rock. I was working in Northern Rock. And I took the Friday off so I could sit up all night watching the election, because I was convinced we were going to win.
You always meant to do this job. You were always meant to.
And my husband was saying, like, you've took Friday off, right? And I was going, because I'm going to be up all night because we're going to win. Well, I want to watch the election when we win. Well, it was Neil Kinnock, as you'll remember, the 92 election. We didn't win. We lost. It was heartbreaking. I was heartbroken. So anyway, that I'm telling you that because that was a seed. That was in my head. So then I have 94, 95. I have 2 kids. And that's when I'm looking at the kids, Tony Blair comes on the telly. John Smith had died. Tony Blair becomes leader, and we're heading towards the next election, which is 97. And he comes on the telly. People always say, why did you join the Labour Party? And I always say, Tony Blair asked me to. And he did. He was on the telly on a party political broadcast, and at the end he said, if you want this country to be better, if you don't want us to lose at the next election, you need to join the Labour Party and get active.
And that was direct to you felt,
and it was direct to him. I thought, he's right, you know, because we lost we lost, but what did I do? I didn't do anything to help in 92. So with the baby and a toddler, I rang the number and I joined on the bottom of the screen. I joined, and then my membership card and everything come through, and then you start you're on the mailing list. It was mail back then, not emails. And so then I remember this leaflet coming through wanting volunteers for Operation Victory. And that was what the campaign was called. So I signed up. I was assigned to Stockton South, which is a 40-mile journey from Gateshead. I could have volunteered and went to Tynemouth, I now know, which was 10 miles away. So I remember ringing the person who had been assigned to contact and getting in touch. And they said, oh, when can you come through? And I said, oh, well, yeah, I can come through tonight or tomorrow night when my husband comes in from work. So he would come in from work and he'd be handed a bathed baby and toddler, bathed and fed. I'd grab the car keys at 5, half 5, whatever time he got home, jump in the car, drive 40 miles to Stockton down the A19, which is not a good journey at rush hour. So at first I was just delivering leaflets, and then I was taught, like, you know, going out with people to learn how to knock on doors and what to say. And I got the bug. Yeah. So then at least once, twice a week, and maybe on a Saturday, I would do that. Sometimes I'd even take the kids through.
That's a political winner. That is your children there. Yeah. That's a good one.
And so that was the start of it. Remember the first time I met Tynebridge MP Dave Cleland, who was my MP, I practically bowed or curtsied. I'd never met an MP before. And I was saying, oh, sir, it's so lovely to meet you. And he was going, oh, call me Dave. And I was like, okay. Then I was at the constituency level. I was nominated to be the women's officer. So then I became the women's officer. Then I was sent to the Women's Labour Party conference at Scarborough. And I remember there I met Hilary Armstrong, who was a cabinet minister at the time and chief whip, practically lay down and
just sort of awe with these people.
I was meeting all these people and so remembering Morlem, all of that. The first time I would meet all these people, just like, wow. So anyway, one of these times when he would have come in from work and after we'd won the election, and I was going to one of my meetings, and Joseph was at the baby gate at the top of the stairs, I think, in the bath, and I'd put his dressing gown on, and I'm running down the stairs, and he's shouting, Mummy, where are you going? And my husband shouted, she's off to save the world. and he shouted down after me, and he's literally like 3 or something, and he went, Mummy, are you a superhero?
Oh, see, how nice is that?
I know. Oh. It's like one of my fondest memories, like my heart literally broke. And I was like, oh no, my goodness. And my husband, he said, no, but you think she is.
Moving on from there, they should have got you a cape for Christmas. That would have been the best Secret Santa gift ever. But it just goes to show, though, the impact you've had on your children from such a young age, because being an MP is not an easy job or journey. So what's your best bits about being an MP, and what are your, not worst, but what's the bits that you don't enjoy as much?
It's changed so many times over the years, just being here. Sometimes I'll still now walk through Westminster Hall. I'll walk into the chamber and think, oh my God, how is this my job? The simple moments like I had on Monday going into a school, one of my schools in the constituency. It's Democracy Week this week. Oh, wow. So I was in one of my secondary schools in the constituency and talking to the kids there about, my job, about democracy, about why it's so important, why we shouldn't take it for granted, and also that they're going to get the vote now at 16.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big change.
Massive change. So talking to them all about that.
There might be some kids there.
This school, Lord Lawson.
Nice.
They'll be dead happy if I show this. Lord Lawson, sixth form.
There might be some students there though who now look at you going, I've never met an MP.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! So it goes full circle.
Yeah. As you say, I always say to them, you can be whatever you want to be, whatever your present or your past is doesn't have to be your future. And you'll sometimes see them look, and I'll know it's sort of resonating with them. And I'll say, I didn't grow up to be an MP. If you know anything about my background, I wasn't the kid in the class who said, oh yeah, she's going to go far. So, there was nothing in my childhood or upbringing, but other than hard work.
You decided to start the APPG for school meals 2010?
10, yeah.
So why? Like, what was the big drive towards that?
I was that kid on free school meals from practically the day my dad left, when say I was 7, till the day I left school at 16. So I know how important those meals are. Yeah. So obviously became the MP in 2005 and wanted to make the world a better place, There I was, thinking I was a superhero. And then, you're sort of trying to find your way. And one of the opportunities that came my way as a new MP was to go on a fact-finding mission with a bunch of other MPs to Sweden, looking at health and education models in Sweden. And all very interesting, but I came away obsessed about the school food. Because we went into a school and we were supposed to be looking at, the educational model, everything. But we went to lunch with the teacher in his class, and that was it. That's my whole 20-year journey of an obsession about school food began. Because, well, it's universal free school meals. The quality is just up here. Packed lunches are... Well, they don't have packed lunches.
It doesn't exist.
They're not even as if they're banned. I don't think they're banned. Just nobody needs to bring them in. Nobody chooses to bring them in. Yeah. But I wasn't aware of all this. I was asking all these, what I now realise are embarrassing questions, what felt embarrassing, because every time I asked a question, he would turn it back at me, the class teacher, and go, so you mean you allow kids in the UK to bring in packed lunches? Do you not understand the effect of junk food and chocolate and number? And I was going, oh yes, but why do kids need to bring in a packed lunch? And I would say, well, do you not provide hot food? And I would say, well, yes, but only to the very, very poorest. And this, when I was having to inform him of what we did in the UK, I was so embarrassed at having to fess up to the fact that we only give the very, very poorest free school meals. And he said, well, what about those who, aren't wealthy? And I said, the working poor. And your
embarrassment you said there is what we're going through now. So we're actually going out to, so we just got back from America. We're speaking to Japan. We've got contacts in India. We're going out to Scandinavia because they do it so well. We've got contacts in France. So we're going out to these places now because it is just so different. And the whole point of it is to join the dots maybe, and not just shame anyone or say you do it better than we do, but just show that there is potentially a different way. But there's countries like that where it is just the norm, that they can't get their head around why the UK still does it, or England in particular does it the way that they do it. And I'm living through exactly what you've done all those years ago right now, because the more I get into it in other countries, Japan, for example, we're talking to, and their most popular dish every day is fish, every day. The only fish we can get into our children is this fish fingers, if it's breaded and finger shaped, right? So part of these conversations now is shining a light on what we do as an industry, what we could do better, and sort of learnings elsewhere. So, so what was your school meals like growing up?
There were free school meals, and I've got really fond memories of them. And this is all credit to my mum. So, on benefits from the day my dad left till the day I went to work. And I've got no memory of ever being hungry as a kid. So there wouldn't have been much money. We were on benefits that whole time. But there was always breakfast. I had lunch at school, and there was always tea when I got home. There wasn't cupboards full of food, but there was enough. There was always enough. There was always food on the table. I always remember being obsessed about wanting chips from the chip shop, because we never got chips from the chip shop.
It's these little bits from you being young, which is moulded and shaped your career nowadays. So not even just getting involved as an MP, but then obviously moving into school food. And maybe you, even just not knowing it growing up, knew the importance of that school meal. Being hot, being regular, because you knew that you would fill up there, because going home, it might not be the portions that you wanted.
And it took the pressure off my mum as well. So she knew we always had that meal. And so then she was supplementing that with whatever she could manage to give us on the night time. So we were never hungry. But that's why I've got such great memories of, because I like proper traditional, be cottage pie, shepherd's pie, dinners and cake and custard, roly-poly,
Yes.
suet puddings, all of
classics.
the classic stuff. And then in high school, my first ever taste of garlic was in high school when I would be about 15 on a piece of pizza, and the garlic nearly burnt my mouth off. I don't, because like, so now you'll sometimes hear someone say, "Oh, garlic's hot,
Spicy,
but spicy," and I don't think it is now. But I can remember as a kid the first and this white stuff on the pizza, and probably maybe the cooks back then didn't understand you were, maybe
just load it on.
spare. Yeah, because I remember it was like on the pizza like a topping.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was my first taste of pizza.
That's a gateway to a new food, and there's something I'm really
Yes.
passionate about. Just that gateway to seeing it. You see it often,
absolutely.
you might try it, and then
Yeah.
it might be something that's you add to your diet. So, and you mentioned earlier, garlic's one of your favourite things now, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
what's your favourite school meal growing up? Dessert, main? What would be the one?
Right. The tray mince pie with mashed potato and veg, cabbage, whatever the veg was. So that tray, the tray
Yep.
mince pie. Oh, it's just amazing. And then roly-poly and custard would be I love, yeah.
Do you still have a roly-poly and custard now?
Yeah, if they ever do it here.
So we're talking about sort of school meals. Right, there's lots going on, which I guess is meaning the APPG is probably more well attended than ever at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So where do you stand on sort of funding at the moment? I know that there's sort of bits about saying being underfunded, and also against Scotland, Wales, how far behind sort of England is. Why do you think that is?
It's so, devolved government, isn't it? And I suppose people would argue that proves devolved government works, that Wales and Scotland have been able to do their own thing and do it better than England is doing it. It then, my obsession about the fairness and unfairness, like the North-South divide I spoke about, we're seeing that now across the nations, that depending on where you live, there's a postcode lottery with regard to school food and what you get and how much the schools get per meal and, the funding of it all. Especially in the Northeast, if you're just over the border into Scotland, they're going to have more per meal. There's going to be more kids getting a free meal in Scotland than, say, in Northumberland.
So it's just such a mess at the moment that nobody seems to be sort of grabbing hold of and sort of drawing a line under, which must be really frustrating for you, but being your upbringing, being what you stand for, sort of the chair of the APPG, that must be like really sort of a frustrating point for you.
And so we think it might have been before the general election or just after we had, I think it was before, we had every one of the regions, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales and England, do a presentation, like LASA and, and just sort of different organisations. And the graphs, I remember LASA had produced a graph showing it all, and to see it in black and white, and I was like obsessed thinking this is just ridiculous. But I was already convinced that universal free school meals was the way ahead. But when you look at that, I'm even more convinced now that, all the economies of this and how different it is and how piecemeal and how, unfair it is for kids and for the caterers and the schools trying to make it work, that if it was just fully universal, it should be is essential to the school day is the desk and the chair and the teacher. They should get their lunch. And, I say to anyone who listens, if you or I were in hospital or prison, they would not means test us for our lunch.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
lying in a hospital bed, kids in a hospital bed, they wouldn't come round and go, well, you've got a good salary, you've got to, you can have yours free, you've got to pay. In prison, if, anyone for dodgy PPE contracts ends up in prison.
Or can you imagine?
As rich as they might be, they'll get their lunch free, they'll get their food free. And yet kids who, I can't remember the last time when the legislation was brought in to stop under 16s being put up, in the mills or down the pits. So it's been a long time since we've forced kids to work, and so they don't have an income, and yet we means test basically through the kids. It's their parents we're means testing, but the kid is then on the receiving end of either the tick or the cross. And there's so many kids now not entitled to a free school meal, even after we've extended it to another 500,000 kids. That's great. So all kids on universal credit are going to now get a free school meal. But all of those, who aren't, are now, so all we've done is move that sort of cut-off point. But regardless of the family income, there are so many other benefits of a child getting a free school meal. regardless of like whether the parent can afford it. Because eating together, I mean, the economies of scale for the caterers and for the schools is brilliant. All the extra jobs, all of that, all the extra food in the food chain and the suppliers, but the very purpose of sitting down together, breaking bread together, the children all eating together, and maybe one day the teachers all eating with the kids. That's what happened in Sweden. My obsession with Sweden. The teacher took his class and they all sat down, and I got lectured from the teacher about the importance. He said, "So do your teachers not?" And I said, "Well, not always, because they don't get A, they don't get their food, and B, they don't get very long.
Times, budgets, and all these things."
And he said, "But it's so important. I sit with my children every day, and I sit with a different child and group of children and if a child seems quiet or seems a bit more boisterous than normal, I know there's something." And he said, "Do you not understand? Children open up over food."
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, because as a parent, I knew that. Yeah. Because, if I wanted to sort of get something out of my kids, I would do it round the dinner table, because they let their guard down, and you can get out of them what's bothering them. We were in an event yesterday in the Jubilee Room for Evidence Week, and we were got talking afterwards to a woman who's an architect, and she said there's so many homes now are built without a dining room.
So sad.
So there's a kitchen and a lounge, and they don't see the need for a dining room, because for lots of families now, kids eat in their room or in front of their telly.
Yeah. And on top of that, all the stats are there, and this is the bit that I can't get my head around. You look into Scandinavia, and they'll show you the stats saying their children are academically better now. They more experience in food. Like, every single stat you look at shows that a funded good meal leads to better life choices in the end.
Absolutely.
But still, we can't get it over the line. How do we get it over the line? What would you say, or do you think better funding's coming? That's going to change universally. Yeah. Do you think that's going to happen?
I hope so, because it's a step in the right direction. We got the infant free school meals, which the All Party Group was so influential. When John and Henry were doing the school food plan, they came to the All Party Group for the experts, and they engaged with me, engaged with a whole host of the people who are still active in the All Party Group now. And we got the universal infant free school meals. Now we've got the extension to universal credit. So, bit by bit, that increase in spending for from the government coffers. The next thing we really need, though, is a per meal. We need to get it up to at least £3 per meal, a bit more. To get the parity with Scotland and Wales would be great, and London's £3. So we need to look at that, and then look to expand further. And it's the evidence, the evaluation. So John and Henry, who, when they were doing, Henry Dimbleby and John Vincent, when they were doing the school food plan, first met with me and said, "What would you like to see from this, Sharon? We've got a remit from Michael Gove, who'd commissioned them." He says, "What would you like to see us recommend?" And I went, "It's easy. Universal free school meals." And they both laughed. They both laughed their heads off. He says, "We're not going to be recommending that." He says, "There's definitely got to be parental buy-in. The quality's got to be good." So I was going, "Why has it got to be parental buy-in?" He said, "Well, there's got to be lots of choice, so that parents are willing to buy." And I was going, "But if it's free, the state's providing it." In Sweden, there wasn't lots of choice. There was choice in that it was vegetarian option or a meat option, but it was pasta with a vegetarian sauce, a meat-based sauce. There was cheese, there was salad, there was all chopped up salad, and then there was fruits all chopped up, milk on tap, water on tap, bread and butter. That was it. But the combinations, there was enough choice there just in those foods to satisfy all the kids. And the next day it would be something different. Like, I don't know about you, when I went home, did you have a menu? Did you have a choice?
No, absolutely not. No.
You were given dinner, you were given food.
You knew what you had when it landed on the table.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah, lasagna today.
Kids don't need choice. They just need some good, healthy food. So choice costs. That's how you bring the cost down. So when it goes fully universal, you take away the 15 choices. As long as you've got choices for vegetarian, vegan, all of that. So anyway, I sent them away. I said, "Well, here's the evidence. It'd been the evaluation. So this is where I think we'll get to with the rollout." So we'd had all these evaluations from the pilots at Ed Balls. I'd helped convince Ed Balls to do some pilots of universal free school meals. So we had Newham, Wolverhampton and Durham. But we got the evaluation, and the evaluation was tick, 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 tick. Of
course it was.
So I gave that to John Henry. I said, "Go and speak to Newham, go and speak to Durham, speak to all the people, the experts from the school food group." there was Professor Colquhoun from Hull University had done an evaluation when Hull had universal free school meals for 4 years. Gave them all of this evidence, and off they went round the country. And every 6 weeks, 2 months, they would check in with me and go, oh, and I'd go, how's it going? Do you want to speak to somebody else? Do you want more, more recommendations of where to go? So anyway, they did it, and then eventually they brought, they had it approved by Michael Gove, and they said, right, we can show you before the launch, you're going to be one of the first to see the recommendations. So there was 17 recommendations. I've got my own thumbed copy in one of my many piles, and I can show you. And we're going through the 17, and, there was things like putting cooking back on the curriculum, for kids to understand where food comes from, nutrition, how, what our bodies need, how that works, how you get fat, all of that. Yeah. Ofsted had to hold the head teacher to account. That's still one thing that isn't happening. Yeah. And then they got to number 17, turned the page, and John Vincent was like so excited. And he went, you're going to love this one. And I was thinking, like, what's this? And I was thinking, what's this? Turned the page. I literally squealed with delight, because there it was, and if you read it, it says universal primary free school meals when the money can be found. And I said, Michael Gove's, it was like drop the mic moment. I went, Michael Gove's approved that, and he went, yeah, he's approved it in the recommendations. Obviously he hasn't put the money to it. He put the money to 1 to 16 because that was just a few million. Obviously,
it's still there though, isn't it?
It's there as a recommendation, and the government had accepted it.
So it's just about finding the money then. That's which I know is harder than it sounds, but if the money can be found, you think they'll roll it out, and that'll happen.
So, and that's what we need. We need the money, but we need the evaluation, because when I also said to John and Henry, why, like you said, you would want parental buy-in and all of that. I said, how come you recommended that? And they said the evidence. He said, when we followed the evidence, behaviour improves, attainment improves, attendance, the quality, like everything improved. But the one group of children who improved more than the rest, so all boats rose, but there was one particular group that rose more than the rest, and it was those who were already entitled to free school meals. So the only thing that had been removed was the stigma.
Yeah, there we go.
So take the stigma away, have all the children being fed, and whatever magic that created in those children who were already entitled to free school meals, their boat rose more.
Yeah.
And they said when they looked at that evidence, it was like, it was undeniable across all of the different evaluations I looked at.
I've read so much as you have, and I can't find one bit of evidence, apart from it costs money, that says that we shouldn't do this for our children. There is not one bit I can find. You want all children to eat the same food across the country, which is good food, right? That's what it is. If you could change one thing, a couple of things within education catering, what would it be? What would be like the top on your list?
Ooh, right. Well, universal free school meals, coupled with a new funding model of at least, £3 or more, looking at sort of learning from the best. So whether that's London or Scotland, and, the quality of the food and the portions, we're hearing more and more now, especially the older kids, saying that they're not getting enough.
Yep.
Because, what is good for a 5-year-old is not enough for a 15-year-old. It's got to be enough for them, or their family is not going to feel the benefit of getting that free school meal if they're still saying to their mum, I need some money. Because, I'm getting my free school meal, but it's not enough.
So I know the guys are saying we're running short time. So at the end of every podcast, we ask the guests to give a bit of advice that they would give to their younger self. And we're going to ask you to sign that into a very special book that we've got. So to put you on the spot, if there was one bit of advice you would give to your younger self, or you would give to maybe young people of today, right? What would that be?
Wow. So when it comes to sort of believing in yourself, and I can remember being the grand old age of about 19, and bearing in mind I'd probably been working for about 3 years there, 19, 20, sitting at my first job in Tyneside Safety Glass and looking out the window and thinking, oh, well, this is my life. All my friends are at university, so, you know, the ones who went, and feeling sorry for myself and thinking, you know, if only I'd been able to do that. And, you know, this is my life, sitting in this. It was times I was in the office above the factory doing the accounts and payroll. It was very repetitive. Every day was the same, you know, depending on what time of the month it was. I'd be doing year end, like month end, and once you had to do year end payroll and all of that. So there'd be, but every day I was in that office, sitting in the same seat, looking with the same view out the window, and just, when I look back and I can remember that young woman, and I just want to say to her, oh my God, you've got no idea what's coming. You've got no idea. And also it all started with thinking, right, I'm sick of this job. I'm going to look for a better job.
Yes.
And I did. And that road began. Just had a whole different outlook and a group of people that I then met, which has led me to where I am now. Every door opens the next door. Every opportunity then brings other opportunities. So that would be the bit of advice I'd say to myself, you know.
So as the bells at Big Ben ring,
4.
that's it. So your bits of advice would be every door opens another door, every opportunity provides another opportunity. Yeah. The guy's going to prep the book for you to do, and we're going to do the Quickfire 21. So I've got 21 questions I'm going to ask you. Very quick fire. So Quickfire 21. 21 questions I'm going to ask you, which is just based all around food. So there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just to get to know Sharon a little bit more. You ready?
Right.
Cool. Start the timer. So, favourite hot drink?
Black coffee.
Black coffee, nice. Favourite cold drink?
Gin and tonic and red wine.
Nice, I like you went there. Favourite pizza topping?
I love anchovies on a pizza.
Favourite breakfast?
Oh, like a full English.
Midnight snack if you're up that late eating?
Whatever I can find.
The roly-poly out the
might
fridge?
Might be a dry, a dry cracker or whatever. But probably some toast with butter on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Favourite childhood meal?
Like Sunday dinner.
Nice. What's your favourite cuisine?
Right. Japanese.
Nice. We haven't had a Japanese yet. Favourite type of pasta?
Oh, spaghetti.
Favourite ice cream flavour?
Oh, that like the honeycomb caramel.
Nice.
Yeah, one.
What's your favourite thing to cook for others?
I do a mean lasagna, excellent steak and chips.
Wow. What's your favourite guilty pleasure food?
It would be like puddings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roly-poly and custard.
And syrup sponge and custard.
Favourite food off the barbecue?
It's just good old-fashioned burgers and sausages.
Yeah. Favourite fruit?
Berries.
Favourite veg?
I love all veg. It would be easier if you had asked me which veg I don't like. It's all the veg.
Hey, look, you're promoting for school food. That's not a bad.
I love
Favourite cheese?
Danish blue. No. Oh, no, not Danish blue. Blue Stilton.
Blue Stilton.
Danish blue's, ugh. But Danish blue's just wrong. It's bitter. I can't believe that word came out of
your whole face. It's just wrong.
Pudding. I just think with custard. It's got to be custard. None of this like a pudding with ice cream.
Favourite sandwich?
Ooh, I do like a very good, well-made BLT.
No. Favourite way to have your eggs?
Sunny side up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Favourite potato?
Roast.
Yeah. Favourite topping on toast?
Butter, just straight, or butter with marmalade, a really good marmalade.
Marmalade's good, yes. And finally, if you could only eat one dish for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One dish. You know, chili con carne and rice.
Nice. Oh, you haven't had a chili yet? Nice.
I
Sharon,
might have to think of it.
thank you so much. I know how busy you are, so real thanks for your time today. For the small crowd that's in the room today, Sharon, everyone, thanks so much.